Hello. This module will be about services, what they are, why they're useful, and how you can attach them to a particular year profile for a particular employer. Let's start by double-clicking on our H2A desktop shortcut, and then picking out an employer, and of course adding the year information. If you don't add the year information when you try to look up a particular employer, it will just give you a blank screen, and then clicking on their profile. Now here again we see the good old H2A palette and year profile. But let's talk about the services section. Now let's say that you've completed an ETA 790 form and you want to communicate that to the other H2A members of the overall team. Now this could be because you want them to know that you've completed it. This could be because you want to sort of create or add to a service timeline of all the stuff that you've done for a particular employer, or even because you want to send them a particular attachment. But services all pretty much go the same way. Now you click up on the Add Services button and you get the little Services form. Now you'll notice that two things are already filled in for us. The service date, which you can change, and the employer, which you cannot. So just remember that if you're looking to add in a service, make sure that you have the appropriate year profile up for the service to be attached to. You can also select your name from the staff name dropdown. And if your name is not in that staff name dropdown, let your supervisor or the supervisor of the MSFW program know, and we'll get you added to the list. You can also scroll through the list of all the different categories. This is going to be everything from individual forms like the ETA 790 to just collaboration reports in general, parent violations, of course, and so on and so forth. We're going to just select ETA 790, but again, if there's a category that's not on that list that you think would be beneficial to the team, let your supervisor know, and we'll get it added on there. And then for the service description, we're just going to add in some test data, but this would be where basically the description of the service goes. And this can be anything from as simple as I added an ETA 790 form to this employer, to as complicated as detailing an entire series of telephone conversations or an entire email chain that you want to make sure that the rest of the team knows about. That's really what's key. If you want something to be known by the rest of the team, put it into services. Now I'm going to draw your attention down here to attachments. You double click that and up comes the attachment window. Here you can add individual files. These can be scans, images, individual email messages, even audio or visual recordings if necessary. You can click Add to upload a particular attachment or document, Remove to remove an existing, or Open, Save As, or Save All to start accessing the documents that are attached to a particular service. This is particularly important because these attachments are saved into the database file itself. So any files or information you put in here will be not only permanently stored within the database, but also will be visible to the other members of your team. So let's say that you got a physical copy of the ETA 790 file and you scanned it. In addition to adding it into the database manually, you can also just simply attach the scan to the service and say, hey, I typed in all the information for an ETA 790, and here is the scanned document itself. And then anybody throughout the state of Wisconsin who has access to this information will be able to see your attachments, download them, and get access to that information as well. We'll cancel out of that for now, but I also want to draw your attention to the hidden checkbox over here. You can add this. This is going to seem a little counterproductive, but you can add this if you want a particular service to remain hidden, to not be visible to the rest of the H2A staff. In fact, if you select hidden, the only way that that's going to be accessible is if somebody with managerial access or above looks into the back end of the database. So select hidden if you want to create a service, make sure that the service is recorded in the database, but that no one else can access that information except for managers and supervisor level staff. For example, if you are adding an apparent violation or the details of a confidential case into the service record, and you want to make sure that that information is still A, on our permanent reports we send out every quarter, and B, available to management staff if in the event of a Freedom of Information Act request or something similar, you would simply add it into the database, but make sure that hidden is clicked. So we can, of course, choose between finalizing our service now or simply closing without saving. Now, if we finalize, just be aware, if we finalize, that means that the only way you'll be able to get this service out of the database is by informing your supervisor and telling them that a particular service for a particular employer should be removed. So it's a great idea to make sure that your information is full and accurate before you put that final button on it, so to speak. Click finalize, and again, it looks like nothing's happened, but if we click refresh, you can see the service date, the name of the person who put in the service, the category of the service, and our description of the service all at a glance. This over here, if we double click on it, brings up the same attachment window. So that's going to be where you can see additional attached files. And of course, once more services get added to this particular employer profile, they will be not alphabetical, excuse me, but chronological by most recent service first. So we start to see an entire timeline of useful information describing everything that's been done to and for B&B Agri-Sales in 2019. So what this basically means is usually when you add in a form like an ETA or 790 or 99127, you also want to add a service in describing that you did so. This way, not only is the raw data in the system, but the rest of your H2A team, as well as any managers or supervisor level staff, also know that the information is where it should be, and we can see at a glance what exactly is going on.